There are certain occurrences in history that are considered among the strangest coincidences of all time, and learning about them will leave you absolutely stunned. Number 1. On May 26, 1817, in Erdington, England, 20-year-old Mary Ashford was returning home from a party at night. However, when people began searching for her the next morning, her dead body was discovered in a water-filled pit. There were clear signs of assault and struggle on her body. Suspicion fell upon Abraham Thornton, who was the last person seen with Mary. The case went to court, but due to a lack of strong evidence, Thornton was acquitted. The public was outraged, but legally, the case was closed. The bizarre part is that exactly 157 years later, on May 27, 1974, another shocking discovery was made in that very same Erdington area. The dead body of another girl was found there. This time, the victim was 20-year-old Barbara Forrest. She had also been out at night, and her dead body was found the following morning. The cause of death was once again assault, and the location was almost identical to where Mary Ashford's body had been found. What makes it even more shocking is that Mary Ashford and Barbara Forrest both shared the exact same birth date. And the coincidence doesn't end there. The prime suspect in the 1974 case also shared the exact same surname, Thornton, just like the accused from 1817. It seemed as though time itself had repeated the event. Neither case saw final justice. The 1817 case ended in doubt, and the 1974 murder officially remains unsolved. Number 2. In the early 2000s in the Philippines, karaoke wasn't just a form of entertainment, it became a fundamental part of daily life. People would grab the microphone and sing at night in neighborhood bars and homes. However, a bizarre pattern began to emerge during that time. Whenever Frank Sinatra's song, My Way, was performed on karaoke, the atmosphere would occasionally become incredibly tense. Between the years 2000 and 2012, there were at least 6 documented murders in the Philippines that were linked in some way to a performance of My Way on karaoke. The strangest detail was that the fights would break out either while the person was singing or immediately after the song finished. In some instances, the singer was heckled for singing off-key, while in others, the audience found the singer's attitude to be arrogant. Even the lyrics of the song are structured in a way that can trigger one's ego. Alcohol was also frequently involved, causing minor arguments to escalate rapidly until knives or guns were drawn. Surprisingly, several karaoke bars took this problem so seriously that they completely removed My Way from their song lists. However, authorities never officially blamed the song itself, they chalked it up to pure coincidence. Yet, the pattern was so distinct that this phenomenon became widely known as the My Way killings. Number 3. On December 7, 1941, it was early morning at Pearl Harbor. The U.S. naval base seemed completely peaceful, and the soldiers were going about their daily routines. No one had any inkling that history was about to change in a matter of minutes. That very morning in Washington, D.C., American intelligence intercepted a Japanese diplomatic message. This message made it clear that relations between Japan and America were about to rupture, serving as a strong signal of an imminent attack. It was immediately recognized as a critical warning and sent out to alert Pearl Harbor. However, this warning was not transmitted via radio. Instead, it was sent through a commercial telegraph because the high-priority military channels were either busy or unavailable at that moment. The message had to be encoded first, then decoded, and then typed out manually, causing the process to face continuous delays. Right during this time, at 7:55 a.m., Japanese planes launched their attack on Pearl Harbor. Bombs began to rain down, ships caught fire, and battleships like the USS Arizona were destroyed within minutes. The warning message finally reached Pearl Harbor after the attack had already begun, around 8 a.m. By then, everything was already devastated. More than 2,400 Americans lost their lives in this attack, and dozens of ships and aircraft were destroyed. The shocking realization is that if the warning had arrived just a bit earlier, the ships could have been alerted, aircraft could have taken to the skies, and the scale of the damage might have been far less. This single delay officially pushed America into World War II, altering the entire course of history. Number 4. In May 1944, as World War II reached its peak and the D-Day invasion drew incredibly close, the Allied forces were planning a top-secret operation codenamed Operation Overlord. Around that same time, a completely normal British newspaper called The Daily Telegraph published a daily crossword puzzle, which people solved simply to pass the time. However, what baffled everyone was that within a span of a few days, answers to the crossword puzzle began to include words like Utah, Omaha, Overlord, and Neptune. These were not just random words. Utah and Omaha were the secret code names for the D-Day landing beaches, Overlord was the top-secret operation name for the entire invasion, and Neptune was the code name for the naval phase of the operation. British intelligence was completely stunned. It looked as though the entire plan for D-Day was being leaked right through the newspaper. The crossword creator was immediately apprehended and interrogated. He turned out to be a schoolteacher named Leonard Daw who merely created puzzles as a hobby. He stated that he had absolutely no knowledge of the military meanings behind these words. The investigation revealed a highly unusual detail. Leonard Daw's school students often suggested random words to him for his crosswords. Since an Allied soldiers' camp was located right near their school, the children would overhear these words being spoken among the soldiers, and they passed them along to Daw without understanding what they meant. The final conclusion was that this wasn't a security leak at all, but rather a bizarre coincidence. D-Day was successfully executed on June 6, 1944, marking the success of the largest invasion in history. Number 5. On November 23, 1936, a new publication named Life magazine was launched in New York, USA. This was the magazine's very first issue, marking the beginning of a new era in photojournalism across America. On that exact same day, a baby boy named George Story Jr. was born in an American hospital. The editors found this coincidence so fascinating that they published a photograph of the newborn baby in the inaugural issue of Life magazine, featuring a caption that read, "Life begins." On one hand was the birth of the magazine, and on the other was the start of a human life. As time passed, Life magazine remained one of America's most famous publications for decades, covering war, culture, space history, and everything in between. Periodically, updates on George Story's life were also featured in the magazine, tracking his journey from childhood into adulthood. The incredible twist came in early 2000 when Life magazine announced that it would permanently discontinue its weekly print edition. This was an emotional moment for America, and almost at that exact same time, in April 2000, George Story Jr. passed away. The most haunting coincidence was that Life magazine's final weekly issue was published in May 2000, and inside that very last issue, George Story's death was highlighted with a cover page that read, "The End." A man's life began alongside Life magazine, and his personal story concluded right as the magazine came to an end. Number 6. Following World War II, political power kept shifting in the U.S. White House, but a peculiar pattern quietly repeated itself over and over. Normally, only about 10% of the global population is left-handed. However, the astounding fact is that among American presidents elected after World War II, roughly 40% turned out to be left-handed. This list includes Harry S. Truman, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. This pattern was noticed by the public when they clearly observed which hand the presidents used to hold their pens and write. This meant that after World War II, practically every third or fourth president was left-handed, an occurrence that is exceptionally rare in ordinary everyday life. What makes it interesting is that psychologists often associate left-handedness with creativity and out-of-the-box thinking. Left-handed individuals are frequently linked to right brain dominance, which is associated with imagination, strategic skills, and unconventional decision-making. However, this does not scientifically prove that being left-handed automatically makes someone a leader, which is why this coincidence remains one of the most curious patterns in political history. Number 7. On March 1, 1950, a choir practice was scheduled for 7:20 p.m. at the West Side Baptist Church in Nebraska, USA, where a total of 15 members were supposed to be present inside the building. However, every single member ended up running late for entirely different, ordinary reasons. One was busy ironing clothes, another received an emergency phone call just as they were leaving the house, and another got stuck in traffic. These were all completely normal, everyday reasons rather than anything extraordinary. The shocking event occurred at exactly 7:25 p.m., when natural gas leaked beneath the church, triggering a massive explosion. The entire church collapsed in an instant, with the walls and roof caving in completely. If even a single person had been inside, survival would have been impossible. Yet, at the exact moment of the blast, the church was completely empty. The 15 people who normally should have been inside 5 minutes earlier were all safe outside simply because they were running late. A subsequent investigation confirmed that the explosion was due to an accidental gas leak, with no foul play involved. This incident continues to be counted among the most chilling coincidences in modern history.